everybody? I'm your host, Eric Mitchell, and you're on To The Point. It is May 19th, which means it's Tuesday. That's what they keep telling me. So it's Tuesday, May 19th, 2020, the year that just keeps on going. It's like the Energizer Bunny, and I think we're all cheering for the end of 2020 because we would have known 2020 was going to start off like this. I'm pretty sure we would have been like, nope, time out, go back. Start that shit all over again. I think we should blame people who performed on New Year's Eve. They're no longer allowed to ever perform again. So let's jump into the news. Before we hop in, you guys could do me a huge favor. Go over and smash that subscribe button on YouTube. That's right. Smash that button so you hit that bell, and that bell will say, hey, To The Point's on. So you don't want to miss it. So go do that. And while you're at it, tell like 3 friends and tell them to tell like 10 friends. You'll get the math. It's going to work out. We're going to hit 100 subscribers because that's our goal. So let's get to the point with our rundown news for today. We'll lead off here in my home state. Well, not really my home state. I was not born here, thank the Lord, of Oregon, where we reside in the state of Oregon. Governor Kate Brown had her lockdown measures thrown out by a court yesterday, only to get the state Supreme Court to overthrow that court and put an appeal in place, which was paused what that current court said that we could go back to basically living our lives, small businesses being safe. Mind you, and let's talk about this for a minute while we get into the news, and we have some time. Across the country, we're seeing people fight to have their businesses open. Some states, you're right, they shouldn't be open right now. Absolutely correct, because there's not measures in place. But states and counties where they're not seeing large death tolls nor large positive counts, why aren't we opening? Yes, we should wear a mask if you go out. If that's the consensus, I know that we're also seeing arguments on both sides in social media talking about wearing your mask. Wear your mask when you're out, wear your gloves. And people are like, hell no, I'm not doing that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think if we could come to a compromise, I'll wear my mask and gloves if you'll start opening small businesses. That's right. Let's make a compromise because we need to get these small businesses in America back to work. It's one of the few things I actually agree with the right on is that we do need to get back to work because the economy is important. Now, for our friends on the left, quit playing games. Again, you're sent to D.C. like your friends on the right, and your job is to do what we want. Not what you want or some lobbyist or what China wants you to do. What we want you to do. Your constituents. If you don't know the word, Google it, look it up, figure it out. This isn't a left or a right issue. We send clowns to D.C. what feels like every year. Some elections are every year, so that is correct. We send them there and they put what they'd like to do. That's not the job, and they need to go learn that. I think one of the best folks that we have that represents us, and unfortunately I don't live in his district, is Representative Dan Crenshaw. One of my favorite people that goes on social and actually breaks it down for the rest of us. I guess that's because he's a veteran and understands we have to dumb it down and make it where it makes sense. He recently went on an adventure in the Capitol looking for $3 trillion. He didn't find it because it's not around. In fact, the Capitol Hill ATM was not working at that time, just to add to the irony. So, folks, we do need to open up America. Put on your mask and your damn gloves so we can open business, because I know everybody's doing this rebel stuff. I know we're taught to copy what our leadership does, but unfortunately, those that are our leaders don't actually understand what it leads to the front. And that's a topic that's completely different, where we could talk about why presidents should actually have served. That's a whole different topic, because then they understand what the leadership means in the world. We don't have that right now. It's unfortunate, and we haven't had it for a number of years. And just go back to the last 3.5 years. This goes back many, many years. I think the last one was W was the last person who actually served and didn't have bone spurs or just didn't flat serve his country. If you're going to send your men and women, your brave warriors, off to die for their country, you better man up or woman up and serve. Raise your right hand. It's not hard. We've had some incredible women on this show that can kick ass and take names, missing one leg, climbing Everest, okay? So it's not difficult. Just do it. Before you send us off to go die for your peddling of your wars and your lobbyists, hey, let's serve your country. Anyways, that's Eric's rant for the day. I promise we won't have too many more rants. So, speaking of the White House, Trump says yesterday that he is taking the malaria drug. He also said, which is opposite of what was said last week, that he's threatening withholding WHO funding again. Last week, we were going to pay it. This week, we're not. It's a mess. I don't even know what to share with you guys anymore because nobody really knows. We just report crap anymore. We just throw it out there. Yeah, they're going to ban it. You shouldn't do this drug. Fauci's good, Fauci's bad. Trump good, Trump bad. Pelosi good, Pelosi bad. I don't know. You pick a side. I don't know. Just go down the middle. It's easier. I just live in the Joe Rogan world, and it just works for me. So President Trump did draw his criticism from Democratic leaders after saying he's been taking the malaria drug he has touted for treatment for the coronavirus, but besides the fact that it has a well-documented and severe medical risk. Okay, well, I mean, that's his boat. If he wants to do it, that's his thing. The man wants to do it. Obviously, he has doctors. Now, let's keep that in mind. So I was on social this morning, as I am every morning, and I saw this argument. Well, he's just making a decision on his own. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to break some hard facts to you, whether you like the president or don't like the president. He doesn't do anything without people knowing in the White House. The doctors, it's not like he's like, hey, I'm going to start putting this in my body. Remember, when this man travels to foreign countries, his toilet is set up so his poop goes into a bag and the Secret Service gets it. It doesn't go into the sewer. Trust me, the dude's life is monitored. He doesn't put a thing in his body without them knowing about it. Because at the end of the day, he's the leader of the free world. Yes, America. That's what we're like. So all the people who are like, oh, he's just putting whatever he wants in his body. It doesn't work that way. He's not you and I. He's not sitting at home like, you know, I just want to throw this in. Anybody care? Nope, nobody cares. Secret Service doesn't give a shit. Come on. It's the president of the United States of America. In title, doesn't matter. It could be your last name. If you are the president of the United States of America, you're not throwing just anything in your body. So calm the hell down. Doctors approve this crap that he put into his body. The man gets his physicals freaking at a government hospital by the best doctors on the planet. Trust me, he's not putting stuff in his body that we don't know about and that doctors haven't approved. End point. That's what we have to go through. So, fitting into some of the topics we'll be talking about today on the show, mental health across the United States. The U.S. mental health care system is struggling to continue treating patients, and experts fear the virus will actually make the situation worse. Just yesterday on the Joe Piscopo Show, we had our own producer, Chris, on, who runs an organization that talks about mental health for our veterans and the epidemic of over 22 veterans dying a day. You add that on top of our first responders that, according to Chris, shared with me just before we went on air, 1 to 2 first responders die a day. Their numbers are much less than ours. There's 24 million veterans in our country, give or take the ones that are reported on. But for the most part, we make up America. Think about our law enforcement and first responders, ourselves, just an epidemic within our first responders and the people defending our freedom. Mental health then goes into everyone else, our healthcare workers. People just can't deal with being at home. And of course, the people who work on Wall Street and lose a lot of money, they jump out windows all the time. And apparently we just look the other way with those ones. But mental health across the country, I promise I'm not making fun of it. Call it a sick veteran sense of humor. But mental health is something that should be to the forefront. Again, I don't want to turn this into a rant session, but when we talk about mental health, this is something veterans have been dealing with for years. And it doesn't matter what president or what political party. I can insert President blank did not follow through. We haven't had a president yet that's actually said, I'm going to take care of the VA. No, they all stand up there in their pretty little suits and tell us the VA is great. Mr. President, I'd love for you to walk into a VA that a lot of us go to. Go to the ones where the guys call up for a psych eval and are told, hey, call back in 6 months or 6 weeks. And they end up taking their lives in the parking lot. Don't tell me that the problem's fine and it's fixed. It's not, because the money's not going there. It was documented as early as last year that they were given money, over $12 million for public service announcements to be pushed out over social media. They spent $60,000. 60,000, not 60 million, not 6 million, not 600,000. That's what the people put in charge took with their the dollars they were given to push this message out on social to help with mental health. And when we share about mental health, we're not just talking about veteran mental health. People see that number and they can also pick up the line and call the suicide hotline. They're not turning you away. Trust me. If you have a mental, don't just sit up and think it'll get better. pick up the phone and call those numbers that you see there. We will put these on in post-production so you can see these numbers while they go live. Chris, if you know the numbers, please pop them up while I'm talking and people can refer to them for the next couple minutes. But when we are talking about mental health, people need to know that they need to call these numbers. Mental health in our country is one of the biggest issues that we have today. Just like yesterday, I talked about people losing their homes because renters truly are not protected during this time. With almost 40 million people unemployed in our country, people are going to start losing their homes, whether they can't afford their mortgages or renters just straight up become jerks, go to get the eviction process going and start throwing tenants out of their homes, putting people on their streets. So families will be on the streets. So you already have increased domestic violence, and drinking is up and drug use, I'm sure, is up. Then add, hey, I don't have my house, I don't have my job. I'm pretty sure that becomes a mental issue. I'm not a doctor. I don't wear a white jacket, but I can tell you that is a huge problem. So America, it's time to wake up when it comes to mental health. Quit treating it like it's some secret thing that we need to put in a box and not talk about. It's okay for veterans. We'll hop on the phone and we'll tell you all about our PTSD and weird ways we sleep and why we have PTSD. People who survived Me Too attacks, they'll tell you the same thing. People who dated Matt Lauer, they'll tell you exactly how it is. Anybody who's been around Harvey Weinstein will tell you what it's like. It's time to stop hiding behind mental health and waiting for a famous person to die from it. No, because we continue, if you want to, here's my point. Pick up the phone and go on Twitter. Follow a veteran. Follow a veteran organization that deals with mental health. You know what you'll see? You'll see disappointment and depression because what you'll see is a veteran took his damn life. It happens every day, and I'm sick of it. I personally am sick of it because I hate picking up my phone and seeing it. And nobody's going to talk about it on mainstream media because what the hell? We're just veterans. We're just mental health. Nobody gives two shits, but you have to. And that's why we're going to stick to this topic, and I'm going to rant for it for a couple more minutes till we bring on our next guest because it's my show. Because mental health is ignored. I turn on social media, we pitch social media, we talk about it, and nobody really wants to care about it. We're losing first responders to it, we're losing medical care providers to it, and we're losing our veterans to it. So those three are okay? The people who defend our freedom? You sure as hell call them when you're being attacked by terrorists. You sure want United States Marines on that fence, protecting your ass and killing for people for you. When your house is being robbed or you need protection, you sure call the police. And when your house is on fire or your Uncle Fredo is laying on the ground having a heart attack, you're going to call the first responders and you're going to need medical services to come to your house. Why is it not important in this country to take care of those people? Christ's sake, we had to go fight just to get the people who went on the pile at 9/11 some freaking payment for dying. Yeah, that's what we had to do. So where is it important in our country that we care about mental health? Because we're going to run into it, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to slap us in the face. You think the pandemic was a son of a bitch? I could tell you. It's going to be 100 times worse when people start going back to work jobs they don't have. They're going to be sitting their asses at home and seeing their friends go back to work. And FOMO is going to turn into suicide. And it's going to get ugly around here. People losing their homes and mental health. We need to make them a priority. Instead of walking around looking for, oh, President Obama's a bad guy. How about we fix our mental health and quit pointing fingers or going onto Twitter and calling other people losers? That happened yesterday, too. Anyways, where are we at on time? Okay. I'll be done with my rant. That was the news. That was shit. That's just all we're talking about today. Eric just went on a record rant. So we're going to jump on and we're going to talk about news of the day. This is perfect. I wanted to go into this. I love our first guest. One of my favorite people just to listen to. His radio show airs every Sunday, really early for us folks on the West Coast, like 3 a.m. But if you're back east, you should turn it on. You can also watch it on replay, or you can listen to him Monday through Friday on the Joe Piscopo Show, which airs at 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern. And sometimes you hear guests from the West Coast who call in ridiculously early to the show. But they have some of the best guests. Joe and our next guest, Frank Morano, are simply amazing. Their show is great. Joe is one of the greatest guys on there. And Frank, he's pretty swell too. You can also catch him on Liquid Lunch, which airs right before our show Monday through Friday. So before we get to him, take a pause, smash that subscribe button, and tell a friend we're getting ready to go on. So let's get to the point. Frank.
Hello, Eric. How are you? You know, I love these people that move to the West Coast and then they complain about how everything is too early for them. Well, okay, nobody forced you to move to a time zone where it's 3 hours earlier. You could very easily stay in a reasonable time zone where things are civilized.
Yes. But then that argument turns in our favor with sports. Because
this is true. This is true. You're right.
I mean, it is one of my favorite things. It's not that I'm a huge fan of the West Coast. I'm not. But one of the things I enjoy is the fact that sports is it's like an all-day event here. That's kind of nice. That the last game of the night, the Sunday night game, it starts at 5. So have mom and dad over, have a family dinner, have some bourbon.
You're exactly right. When the Mets,
you guys are still up if it goes into OT. It's
true.
Midnight.
When the Mets play the Dodgers on the West Coast and the game starts at 10:05, there's no way to watch the game. I mean, I get up early. I get up around 3 a.m. So, yeah, I get to, if it's extra innings or something, I'll get to hear the last bit of it on the radio. But, yeah, you're right. It is a bummer in that respect.
Yeah, it is different. So let's hop into this. I know I just ranted on mental health because
right on the money. Absolutely.
I mean, to me, it's one of those things that we seem to ignore, right? And I'm not trying to get political. I hate politics in the sense that everybody is either one side or the other, and you're weird if you're right down the middle.
Sure.
And it drives me nuts because mental health, I mean, I get border security, I get all these other things, but to me, if you're going to send people off to protect you, whether it's in your backyard as your law enforcement or your firefighters, or folks are going to go off and protect you like our military, why is it okay for them to come back and be like, hey, why do you think, you've been doing this a lot longer than me, why do you think mental health goes largely ignored in DC?
Well, it's a great question, and it's not a question that I have an answer for. I would think that, I don't know. I think in part it's because it's not necessarily an issue that immediately polarizes people. So that means you don't immediately have special interest groups on both sides of an issue lobbying for it, number one, and raising money for it, number two, which, as bad as those two things might be, it does help to create public awareness about an issue. You take an issue like abortion, flag burning, or the death penalty, even something like, build a wall or not, that people can have varying views, but everybody at least knows about them. I don't think people are too cognizant of the fact that, that there's a mental health crisis in our country. And then with respect to veterans and the veteran suicide issue that you mentioned, I think there's an incredible discomfort among average, ordinary Americans in terms of acknowledging that aspect of it. And I think there is, to some extent, a sense of powerlessness that folks feel, okay, well, I don't know what I can do about this, so my de facto posture is going to be to not pay attention to it. But I don't know. I think you ask such a great question, and it's not one that I have an answer for, just even more questions.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with you. And that's why I try to ask anybody. I mean, you work in the media, you're in radio, especially in the capital of all media in New York City. And to me, I mean, obviously you're familiar with the NYPD and NYFD dealing with their suicide epidemic that they've been dealing with for a number of years now, and they don't have an answer for it. And to me, I find mental health to be this taboo topic still.
Well, in the case,
it's always been that, but now you move into it and it just becomes different. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
In the case of police, and I'm sure some of these are true with the case of the military as well, but in the case of police, I've never, been in law enforcement myself, but I've spoken with some of the greatest law enforcement experts in the world about this, and I asked them all about this. And the first issue is they have access to a gun. A lot of average, ordinary, regular people, if they're suffering from depression or they're dealing with drug overdose, or not a drug overdose, but under the influence of drugs or alcohol, they don't necessarily immediately have access to the gun. So that's number one. Number two is, there is a tremendous pressure not to seek help if you're a police officer, because you're afraid it's going to hinder your prospects of promotion and hinder your prospects of even keeping your badge and your gun. Because what do you do if you tell a mental health counselor or somebody that you're feeling suicidal, or even just shy of that, if you tell them that you're feeling depressed, they immediately take your gun away. Now, no police officer wants to be sidelined forever by having their gun taken away. So the de facto position is they don't seek help, because they don't want their gun taken away. So I think that's part of it. I don't know if that's if some of that plays as well in the military front, but I suspect some of it maybe. You'd be in a much better position as somebody that's looked at this and as somebody that's actually served to say.
And I'll agree with you on that. I think that's the same thing with veterans. I'm looking in here and we have a guy who served many, many years in our United States Marine Corps. Patrick McDonald is in the comments right now. And I mean, he knows what we're talking about. It's the same issue. No matter how many years you served, for us, it's a pride thing, or you don't know you're going through it, or you're told this bill of goods because the military's always taking care of you. When you get out, you're going to be fine. You quickly find out when your service is over, they're like, bye, exit stage left, which is a problem, right? You want to go get help, but you can't. And every time, again, I think for us, and I don't want to just make this about mental health because I want to jump into some other news of the day. But when it comes to it, the problem is with the VA that I see is we constantly put people who have no idea how to run the VA in charge of the VA. I was at an event where the current one's Wilkie. The one before, I don't even know who's the Wilkie's now. The one before Wilkie. We've had two during this administration. And he was booed on stage, called out by a veteran, called out by Montel Williams about not taking care of our veterans. And here's a room with decorated Navy SEALs and, Nate Boyer, who's a Green Beret, all these amazing people. And here's the secretary of the VA sitting next to Jake Tapper, who's there to, stand on stage and tell about his book about how he supports veterans, which also garnered a few boos because we're sick of hearing the story about you did 22 push-ups, so that means you support us. It really doesn't help, especially when you have a pulpit like Tapper does to get on an audience of millions and actually make a difference. Instead, he does politics. But anyways, so everything that's going on, you've got Obamagate. What's the make of this?
Well, so it's such a good question, and there are so many different aspects of it, right? So I think in general, if you look at the entire story of General Flynn's prosecution from where it began to where we are now, there's so much to this, right? So in terms of, let me start backwards. Where we are now is that you have a situation where the Department of Justice wants to drop the charges. You have the defense that says they think General Flynn should not be forced to be that he shouldn't have to plead guilty, that he should just be able to go free. So you have the prosecution and the defense both agreeing with the same outcome. And Judge Sullivan, who up until this case I've had a tremendous amount of respect for, and I thought he's been an incredibly independent judge and done some really, really interesting things. But you have Judge Sullivan who's saying two things that are just unprecedented as far as I can tell. One, let's wait to hear from everybody else before I make a decision. Forget about what the law says. Let's hear from third parties and give them the opportunity to issue amicus briefs. Even more perplexing is his decision to bring in a retired judge, Judge Gleason, to make the case against the Department of Justice's motion. Now, it's so ironic that he would pick Judge Gleason, not because he was a former prosecutor of himself who prosecuted John Gotti, but because 8 years ago, Judge Gleason, in another decision, he said, you know what? If the Department of Justice wants to drop the charges, then there's nothing we can do. So that's pretty interesting that this is happening. And it actually gets worse. They're actually talking about charging him for perjury or contempt of court because of his prior two guilty pleas. Now, anybody that knows anything about the Justice Department and the way they do business knows, as federal Judge Rakoff has pointed out, that just because you plead guilty, it doesn't mean you're guilty. There's an incredible amount of pressure to plead guilty. There's threatening family members and friends with prosecution. There's just the threat of bankruptcy. So to me, I think the threat of prosecution for perjury or obstruction of justice is just a joke. But if you look at how this began, I'm not saying General Flynn didn't do anything wrong here, but what he did incorrectly, not only with respect to this, but with respect to his consulting for countries like Turkey, it pales in comparison to what the FBI and the Department of Justice did wrong here. Eric, if you look at what they did here, they knew the substance of what they were asking him about. They had recordings of his discussions with Ambassador Kislyak. He was aware that they had recordings of his discussions with Ambassador Kislyak. And yet they went to him even though they knew the substance of those conversations, and they asked him, hey, did you talk about sanctions? They tricked him, by James Comey's own admission. They tricked him into talking with FBI agents without an attorney present, which is an incredible breach of protocol. It's not something they would have done, by Comey's own admission, to any other White House. And they got General Flynn to incriminate himself for what? They weren't actually digging into the substance of what was said there. They knew what was said. They did this, and again, now thanks to these documents that have been released, they did this to either get him fired or to get him prosecuted, or both. And they were successful, at least for a time. I think this is just a tremendous black eye for everybody involved in the top echelons at the FBI. Comey, McCabe, Lisa Page, everybody involved in the prosecution of General Flynn. And to me, the thing that is really disconcerting is the silence that we've heard from so many civil libertarians who have been so often critical, rightly so, of government overreach and prosecutorial misconduct.
Outstanding. Yeah, it's funny about the whole Flynn case. To me, is I'm kind of divided on it. I don't understand how, on the record, you have both the President of the United States and Vice President Pence speaking out against him when the indictment came down, but now they want to have him back and welcome him back to, a position within their own administration. So for me, it's this, wait a minute, is he a hero, a bad guy? I mean, I don't get the Flynn thing as a military person myself, and talking to my friends that are in here and other vets. It's another general that I don't understand. He should have common sense enough to know what road he was going down. And I don't think he's this innocent guy that some people are making him out to be.
No. Look, again, I'm not saying he's a babe in the woods. And I think his consulting and his lack of disclosure of that consulting for interests like Turkey is incredibly damning. But, again, there's Patrick McDonald, who is a much better person than I am, and I'm grateful for his service to our country. He's saying that Lisa Page is not in the hierarchy of the FBI, and he then called me a hack. I won't disagree that I'm a hack, but if you look at the documents that were released just last week between the conversations between Lisa Page and and Peter Strzok, their conversations make clear that it was only the fact that there was this bureaucratic snafu that there was still an open investigation into Flynn in the first place. The FBI says, this is not according to me or some crazy pro-Flynn outlet, this is according to CNN, February of 2017. The FBI said that they had no reason to believe that Flynn was being intentionally dishonest with them. So what are we doing, right? So the problem I have with government and the Department of Justice specifically is when we investigate people. We should investigate crimes. Somebody robs a bank, let's find out who robbed it. But the problem is what happened here, and there's a lot of speculation as to why that's the case. What happened here is they were investigating individuals. They were investigating General Flynn, and we can speculate as to why that's the case. And the other thing is, one of my guests on Sunday is going to be John Kiriakou. John Kiriakou was prosecuted by George Bush's Justice Department because he leaked classified information about torture. Now, we know that there was the unmasking of General Flynn, might have been appropriate. You've heard a lot about that, but we don't know who leaked those classified intercepts to David Ignatius of the Washington Post and to the New York Times. Now, if one standard applies to John Kiriakou, the other standard should apply to whomever leaked this information to David Ignatius. So let's actually find out who leaked this classified material. So look, I'm not sitting here saying that we should chisel a new spot on Mount Rushmore for General Flynn. I do think that it's prudent that the Justice Department is choosing at this point not to go forward with this prosecution. I have a tough time seeing the value of trying to throw General Flynn in prison, especially since when General Flynn was cooperating with Mueller and the Department of Justice, they were saying he shouldn't be sentenced to any prison time. It just strikes me as if they're trying to have it both ways here.
That just seems to be the way lately within the government, is everybody wants to eat it too, as they like to say, right? It's like, and not everything is a conspiracy theory. I swear, just reading documents and sifting through them, it sounds like a conspiracy theory if you say it out loud. Trust me, I've read hours of these documents, and it's just mind-blowing that number one, people could put tinfoil hats on about this, but two, it usually goes to the government, and we're painting them as some patron saint. Remember, this is the same FBI that didn't think it was weird that 11 dudes came into America were only learning how to take off.
It gets so much further than that, and that's why I wish the Trump people that are upset about the prosecution of Manafort, Stone, and Flynn, and others. And look, Roger's a friend of mine, and I wish the people who were critical of all the Bush era government overreach. I wish we can take a look and see all the transgressions that the FBI has been responsible for over the last 20 years, and say, look, how do we reform this? Now, you mentioned the 9/11 situation. It goes far beyond not seeing that, even though, of course, we should have seen in the prior 9 years to September 11th that they allowed terrorism, to Islamic terrorism, quite frankly, to metastasize in this country while the FBI was focused on other things. But it goes beyond that. You have, in the aftermath of 9/11, the FBI's refusal, and I don't know that I could put it any other way, to cooperate with local law enforcement agencies like the NYPD. They wouldn't do things as simple as share information about ongoing information with relevant law enforcement agencies. But it goes beyond that. We saw in the run-up to the Boston Marathon bombing that Russia said, when the Tsarnaev brothers were trying to come into their country, they come and warn the United States, not exactly considered a friendly country to them. They say, watch out for those guys. We're worried about them. And our response is what? Let's shrug our shoulders and give them asylum. And it goes beyond that. You have the shooter in the Orlando nightclub, his father calling the FBI and saying, I think my son's a terrorist. And the response from the FBI is what? We allow him to be in a position to buy all these weapons. You could say the same thing about the Chelsea bomber in Manhattan. You could say, I mean, how many times does the FBI get to screw up before there's a complete erosion of credibility at the people running this agency, whether it's Mueller, whether it's Comey, or whether it's Christopher Wray? I mean, it seems like there's no amount of mistakes that the leadership of the FBI can make without them being given another mulligan.
You know, you and I could do this entire show for an hour, because I could dive into all. I'm thinking while you're talking, I'm like, okay, it's right. Ruby Ridge, FBI, Waco, FBI. All of them lead to these weird cover-ups.
What do you expect from an agency whose office building is still named for J. Edgar Hoover, a man who we now know threatened Robert F. Kennedy, did worse than threaten Martin Luther King, but blackmailed him and tried to get this guy to kill himself? I mean, that's their patron saint. That's the name they see when they walk in to work every day. And we're surprised that this is the kind of conduct they engage in against a 3-star general. I'm not surprised. I want to know, for all the whining that the Trump people do about these unfair prosecutions, what are they actually doing to reform the FBI? That's the conversation I want to have. Unfortunately, as for reasons you've pointed out, the conversation about all these Trump-related prosecutions has become so politically loaded that you actually can't have an honest conversation about how to improve our law enforcement agencies.
That's so true, Frank. Oh, we could keep going on for days, but they tell me we have other guests that we have to bring on, and well, one of them is a former detective in New York City, so I guess we should bring him on, because we don't, that could lead to bad things. Well, for you, because you live in New York.
Exactly. Last thing I want. I apologize to everybody for my hackery. Eric, thanks for the opportunity. I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Heck yeah, bud. We'll talk to you we'll talk to you soon. Wow, I can speak English, I promise. Thanks, Frank. Appreciate you, bud. Have a great week. Our next guest is a former, or retired, not former, I'm like giving him like military, like he's a former retired detective from one of the best police forces in the country, the NYPD. Welcome to the show, John Salerno. John. Oh, John's muted there. Can't hear you. No comms. Hold on, he's still muted. We gotta unmute him. Oh. I can't hear John. Well, we'll just sit here and do you want me to rant again? It's great. I do ask folks who do come into the comments. I have one little rule. Let's not call my guests names. Frankie Fibros is a very respectable journalist and has amazing insight and interviews some of the top names in all of the political fields that we deal with. So, his opinion to me comes from an expert, non-slanted side. He doesn't lean left or right. So just everybody, if you're watching, let's not call each other names. Let's have a little bit more class. This isn't CNN or Fox. We don't need to sling mud at each other. We're going to keep it on the up and up around here. We don't do that around here. We're having civilized conversations. That's why we created this show, is so everybody can come on and have their opportunity to give their side of the story, and other people can hear it too, and we could do that. So keep that in mind as we go through the rest of this week, and we end up back on Friday with Joy Villa here, and she's going to be giving her thoughts on the Trump 2020 re-election campaign after we had Movila on 2 weeks ago. Just setting some ground rules for everybody as we move forward. Let's not call people names. Come on, we leave that to the president to go on Twitter and do. Remember, he loves to call people losers. He did that yesterday. Still so weird.
All right, can you hear me?
Hey,
you got me, right? All right.
Hey. We read you Lima Charlie, as we used to say back in the day when we got a comms check. So, listen, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. Now that I figured out how to unmute this thing and change the microphones. But I really appreciate Eric for having me on the show. Frank brought up some great points prior with the military issue and the mental health issue within our police departments, and he was spot on with many of his things. The only thing I did disagree with him on is he spoke to many people about gun access. And I've talked to a lot of people, and when you get into that frame of mind, gun or no gun, you're going to take your life. You're going to find a way.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's true. I mean, a lot of veterans aren't dying by weapon. They're jumping off bridges. They're just, being found dead, ODing. I mean, yes, right. There is. But I mean, if you're going to kill yourself, as you are aware of, just like I am, you're going to find a way. Right. I mean, I have story after story of active duty military trying to kill themselves. I mean, I've seen it. I mean, I have stories that I don't think a lot of people couldn't stomach, honestly, to know how we've handled suicide in the past in the military. I mean, I've watched guys jump off the third stairwell of our barracks, which doesn't kill you, by the way, when you land on grass. It hurts you. You break a lot of bones, and you have to figure out why you're laying on the grass at 3 a.m. dead and in a drug-induced state, which is you end up getting removed from the military as it is. But we've seen guys do that, and it's just, to me, I went. I don't know if you saw the beginning of the show, but I went off on a rant on mental health, because to me, I'm sick of it always having to be a celebrity or an athlete to bring mental health to the forefront. But when we talk about it as folks who serve and see on an everyday basis someone who backs the badge or a brother and sister in arms fall to mental health, it seems to be shrugged off like, hey, we need to go build a border wall. But mental health, I mean, we could use that $6 billion would be great to deal with mental health in our country. And this is, again, I'm not knocking guys like Kevin Love who have brought up their mental disorder. And I don't think that's a problem. I mean, a lot of us have it. I can list, I don't even have enough fingers to tell the people I know who are bipolar and talk about it freely. But I just wish mental health was taken more serious in our country. So for your organization and what you're doing after being, a civil servant in New York City at that, as a police officer, you've kind of done it all. You were a firefighter, also EMS, detective, NYPD. I mean, what's your thoughts on how, I mean, obviously you did all that, and now you're fighting the fight to bring mental health awareness to the badge. So tell us a little bit more about that.
All right. The thing that we got to talk about is the stigma. If we have to remove the stigma of mental health, we have to change the perception that it's not a mental disorder. It's a traumatic brain injury that you get from seeing traumatic events over and over again, or one traumatic event that really scars your brain. And it's been proving that it has changed the way your adrenaline and your dopamine is processed and your thinking is processed. So it's not so much a disorder. If we can get rid of the disorder in PTSD and make it a PTSI as an injury, I think we'll start to slowly, and officers and veterans alike will start looking at it as, hey, I didn't come onto this job broken. I didn't start my military career broken, but there is something that happened along the lines that hurt my brain, that injured me. So if we can get people to look at it as more of an injury, a brain injury, and not a mental disorder, I think that would be our first step in our conversation to changing the way people look at mental health.
Absolutely. So you're part of several different organizations. One that I'm very familiar with, which is you run the Laughter Saves Lives out of Texas. Yeah. And yeah. We have the other John on. I would say, well, he would make comments that you're a badge and he's a firefighter, but you've kind of been everything. So you're like those guys who leave the Marine Corps and join the Army. Like, you're covered. Perfect. Nobody can really make fun of you because you joined the two best branches. Oh, the Navy is pissed. I just said that. The Air Force is like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. We're a branch. And Coast Guard, they're just like, yeah. But anyway, sorry. But I mean, but you run that organization. So Laughter Saves Lives in Texas. Tell us about, but you have a hashtag that I'm really, we were made aware of when John was on the show from Laughter Saves Lives the other day. Walk the Bridge. Let's talk about that.
Hashtag Walk the Bridge was developed by the Third Watch Law Enforcement Motorcycle Club over in Rowlett, Texas. A 30-year veteran of DPS. We call him Bear. His name is Barry Morris. And 12, we call him Brian Wilburn. We're sitting around drinking one day, just having a barbecue, and they said, we want to start raising awareness for our brothers in arms and our brothers who are battling post-traumatic stress. And how can we do that? We got to get our voices heard. So there's a bridge in Rowlett called, it's the Highway 66 Bridge, soon to be named Heroes Bridge, because we got a lot of politicians involved on our mission. And we started walking the bridge in 2018 on the 22nd of every month to just raise awareness. And it started out with 11 people. We walked 1 mile out on the bridge, 1 mile back for a symbolic 22 miles if we have 11 people. We've never dropped below 50 people now. Every month, religiously, we've been walking that bridge, and more people are finding it to be therapeutic. We're getting police officers, we're getting first responders, we're getting military that walk that bridge, not only to raise awareness, but to connect with each other and share their story with each other. Because you know, you're a veteran, I'm a police officer. Mine and yours events are totally different. So I really can't share my stuff because you're not in my shoes, and vice versa. But a veteran can talk to a veteran, a cop can talk to a cop. And that's what's been happening on our bridge. We've been walking for 40 minutes on that bridge and connecting. It's a therapy session. It's a safe therapy session. And it's been credited so far with saving 4 lives. Are you there?
I'm here. Sorry.
No, you're good.
The fun transition side of the show. But you talk about, that is true. Cops talking to cops, vets talking to vets. But I think our teams actually align very well. We both get the duty of it. I know that your organization does that. I'm familiar with the Silkies hike that is run by Irreverent Warrior. There's a whole bunch of different organizations that do it. And these are great to hear about, because I think so let me ask you this before we get going. How can people learn more about your organization and participate? Maybe they have a loved one that is A, first responder, or B, a veteran, and can find out more and become part of your organization. Obviously, Laughter Saves Lives, but to join in this, well, I know we have a lot of people who watch the show from the state of Texas, so I'd love for them to be part of what you're doing. So how can people find out more?
They can get onto our Facebook page at #WalkTheBridge. It's family friendly. It's pet friendly. We all go out there. We have a good time. It's not about raising money or selling swag. It's all about raising awareness. And if you're not in Texas, what we found out with Survive First out of Florida, Doug Mondo is starting his own Walk the Bridge in Florida. And then we have people in Arizona that are going to start walking a bridge if they can find a bridge in Arizona. They're going to start walking on the 22nd. So it's more to a community effort. You could start this in your own state. If you're in Texas, we welcome you. If you're far away from Dallas or Fort Worth, start one in Corpus Christi. Start one in your own area, in your own city, because this is what helps raise awareness. The suicides are going to go up. You brought it up with the pandemic. After these guys go from 100 miles an hour to 0, we're going to see a giant surge because these guys are going to be in their own minds, and it's going to be hard for them to adjust.
Outstanding, John. I want to thank you. Come on. Before you go, I do want to connect you after show with producer Chris with his organization that is also helping with veterans. So I think that definitely you two should talk, and he's messaging me from the booth right now to connect you two. So I want to make sure that we do that and not forget. We'll do it on air because that just shows how we all work around here and how we take mental health very serious around here. And this is all we all help. So ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see how folks get together who've never met each other and work together, welcome to First Responders and Veterans. We'll show you all how it's done. Lead from the front, baby. But anyways, John, I'd love to have you back on again. Anytime. You're always welcome on our show. And just for you today, I don't know if you could see on camera, but I wore my my pocket square.
Oh, nice.
Just
nice.
for you, brother. So
don't
worry. All the vets, don't worry. I got your lapel pin with the Marine Corps on it. Come on now. I take care of everybody. You don't want to be like, oh, you left them off. But anyways, John, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll see you again real soon. Be safe.
I appreciate it, Eric. Thank you.
Thanks. It's Tuesday. You're like, well, no shit, Eric. It's Tuesday, so that means we've talked about veterans causes and first responders and all the craziness that is the news. So when you think about crazy, you think about food, and obviously you would think about Chef Gordon Ramsay, and then you just think about maybe people who've been on his show, Hell's Kitchen, and then you think about awesome chefs that are out there that cook badass food all the time. He's been on here before. We're welcoming him back to the show, Chef Clemenza. Chef.
Yo,
how are you doing?
you can hear me, you can see me. We don't have any audio issues. Well, that's because I spent about 2.5 hours on the phone with Verizon this morning. And so, you would think after $2,400 spending on 2 phones that you wouldn't have these issues, but but finally we're good. I'm happy, I'm stoked, and we're ready to go, man. I gotta say one thing. I like what John, was that his name, John? Mm-hmm. What John just said, he goes, it's a brain injury, not a problem. Because he's right. You don't walk into these situations with that problem. And I'm so glad he said that, because I know a lot of people that have, what is that? I'm sorry, I'm PST. Okay. Thank you. I'm a little dyslexic, so I have a little issues myself. But it's true. People don't walk into these situations like that, man. It's from seeing things and experiencing this trauma that injures the brain. I'm so happy that I finally heard someone else say that. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is true. And before we get going, I want to remind everybody, smash that subscribe button. Smash it. Like, go right now. Stop what you're doing. No, wrong. It's a wrap. So stop what you're doing. Push that button. Slap it. Subscribe. Hit the notification buttons. And tell 3 friends who should tell 10 friends. And you see, this is like Amway. We're going to just start subscribe to our show. So hit that subscribe button. Anyways, so Chef, the big thing here, everybody, you and I chatted off air yesterday, and we were talking about this meat issue. And I saw the White House today or yesterday, the White House had all the people who, run the slaughter houses and all the big, meat packing places across the country. So we're seeing meat prices. You're seeing it, especially in the state of New York, the price of meat go up. And what can people do as we have so many unemployed people figure out how to still have a decent meal, but not spend bazillions of dollars on, what did you say, $16 for a chicken yesterday? Oh, we lost.
Yep, no, I'm here, man. I'm sorry. You there?
You're good. Can you hear us now? There we go.
All right, okay. I'm back. I'm sorry. I kind of trying to do 3 things at once here, and unfortunately, the phone keeps ringing, which knocks down the audio for some reason. So I don't know why. I'm on Facebook Live on another phone. I'm filming this live on one phone. So there's a lot going on right here. If you don't mind, I'd love to, no pun intended, I'd love to get to the point here. Yeah, we're going to be announcing this Triple Deuce Chef Challenge. And what this is this. So basically, a lot of people have been coming to me and asking me and telling me, like, hey, chef, the price of meat's up, price of chicken's up, the price of beef is up. During this pandemic, I bought all these cans. I ran out and bought 40,000 cans of this, 40,000 cans of that. What am I going to do with all this stuff? And quite honestly, even myself, who, times are hard right now. There's not a lot of money. Nobody's getting paid. So I'm creating some dishes with some canned goods and a little bit of fresh product. I'm going to challenge a couple of people. So here's a triple goose challenge. Here it is. So basically, what I'm going to do is it's basically this. It's going to be any 2 canned goods, any 2 cans out of your cupboard, any 2 fresh or vegetables or fruit, okay, and anything from your pantry, all your staples. So in other words, your rice, your beans, your pasta, your eggs, your chicken stock, your butter. So this actually made it a little more difficult to me. Somebody actually picked my canned goods for me. So basically, I'm going to flip the camera around, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So, of course, somebody picked me some canned salmon, which I've never used before in my life. All right, a little canned salmon, and some peas, some canned peas. Now, basically, those are my two canned goods. So what I'm going to do, my 2 fresh products are going to be some onions. Okay, onion and cherry tomato. So I got some onion oil that I'm already sauteing. This is going to be really interesting and different. So I got some onion going on. What I'm going to do, that's my first fresh ingredient. My second fresh ingredient is going to be a little cherry tomato. Look at that. That right there is beautiful already. Now, the unfortunate part, but not really that unfortunate, is that I'm going to use 2 canned ingredients. And I've never used canned salmon. I got to tell you the truth. It's not terrible, man. It kind of looks like tuna a little bit, okay? It's not bad. Okay, to that, I'm going to add a little peas, a little bit of hand peas. Now, there is a dish in Italian called fusilli alla salmon, which is Brazilian salmon. When a little bit, apparently there's still a little bone in there. Don't know that because I've never used some canned salmon, but it does come in like this chunk form. So a little bit of salmon, right? Check that out. That's not bad so far. To that, I am going to add a little bit of chicken stock. That's actually really not bad, guys. I mean, look at that. And I'm going to finish it with a little bit of butter. Now, you're thinking, what the hell is this guy making? 2 cans, can of salmon, a can of peas. This actually is going to be pretty good. And because I'm Italian, I will allow anybody to garnish anything with a little grated cheese. Now, I cooked off some fusilli pasta already. Okay. We're going to add a little fusilli to that. Let's see if I can do. I got somebody filming me live on Facebook. I'm doing this with one hand on the camera. We're going to do a little one-handed flip. Think, Eric, take a look at that. I'm telling you, this is not that bad at all. A little fusilli out of salmon. And look, guys, again, we're doing this with only 2 cans, man. So we did 2 cans, a can of peas, a can of salmon, some pasta, some dry pasta, some beautiful fresh cherry tomato. Look at that. We're going to add a little bit of black pepper. Boom, 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 boom. A little bit of salt just to give it a little bit. Now, you don't want to add too much salt, but a little bit of salt because the chicken stock is a little salty. There's actually some real pepper. And we're going to give this a little taste test to see what we got. I got to tell you, man. I really got to tell you, for a canned salmon and some peas. Now, there was a little smoking session before this, so maybe I had to for a little bit. But for a can of salmon and a can of peas, I got to tell you the truth, man. This is actually really. I got to go back for a second, but hold up, Eric. I'm sorry, man.
The camera back on it one more time for us, Chef.
Come on,
one more time. Show us the meal one more time. Show us one more time.
That's actually not bad. The problem is, Eric, I can barely hear you because, again, people keep calling me. So just bear with me a second. I'm going to flip the screen. I'm going to try to
there you go. That's all we wanted. There you go. Flip the screen.
What are you saying, Eric?
Flip the screen so we can see the food. We want food.
Okay, give me 1 second. Guys, I love you. Thank you for the Triple Do Chef Challenge. Check it out. Oh, by the way, here's who I'm challenging. Steph McPherson, I'm coming after you. Robin Citron and Chef Lou, I'm coming after you. I'm challenging you guys. Take the challenge. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm all over the place, Eric.
You're good.
All right. So go ahead. I'm going to put the phone to me. What are you saying?
I just want you to put the camera where it's at because we just want to take a look at your meal. There we go. Got it.
Yeah, I lost you on the volume, man. Eric, I'm gonna bump off for 1 second and log right back in. And that'll able. I figured out if I log off and log right back in, I'll be able to hear you clearly. So give me 10 seconds. I'll be right back.
No problem. Woohoo! Always wanted to do a segment on this show, and we did. Look at us. We are fancy around here. Our first cooking segment. So it's the triple. Did he say the triple D challenge? I got to catch the name of this because we need to run with this and challenge folks because we have tomorrow. You want to tune in not to our show, but you're going to tune in to Guy Ferreri's show. He's got veterans on for his Grocery Games Challenge. There's a vet on that show called Brian Jacobs out of Florida. He's going to be on our show on Thursday, and I understand Chef might challenge him, but I'm looking in the room and I see we got Stephanie McPherson says she's taking the challenge. So anybody out there who wants to be a challenge, jump into the comments and throw down, and we'll put a segment on here and you have you all on show your meals if you want. We'll put that together because that's just the world we live in.
Can you hear me now, Eric?
I hear you loud and clear, my friend.
I can hear you perfect. Here's the weird thing, which I don't know if it's a glitch in the phones or a glitch in StreamYard, but when I'm on with you, I can hear you fine. And when a phone call comes in, it just knocks the volume down to next to nothing. I don't know why, but once you bump off and bump back on, the volume and picture goes right back to being normal. That was kind of a little bit of a disaster. I apologize for all over the place. I got like 4 catering orders going out. I'm hoping to get the advance to write this a little bit. You know, I got people outside waiting for catering orders. I'm trying to film this Facebook Live and trying to do so. You know what? I love the chaos, though, man. I absolutely love it.
We love it, man. You cooked on our show. You're the first one we've had. That's why you're on every Tuesday to do this wild stuff. So I say, if you're game and we get this challenge down, how about somebody comes on with you next Tuesday and they show their challenge to you?
Oh, absolutely. I love the idea. And you know what? I'm going to get better set up. I got a tripod set up here. I'm going to figure out how to do the whole Facebook Live thing and your thing at the same time. Look. What do I know about technology, man? You put me in the kitchen with a frying pan and a knife, and I'll blow your mind. Hand me 2 phones. I'm copying and pasting links. I don't know what I'm doing. This thing's popping off. The Facebook's popping off. I'm filming me, and then I'm filming the wall. I don't know what's going on. But
so wait a minute. Stephanie just accepted the challenge. I'm pretty sure she accepted to come on the show next Tuesday for the challenge.
Absolutely. All right, there it is.
Stephanie, you just committed to it. You had no idea. You're now on the show on Tuesday. We have this program going on. What's the hashtag for the challenge? So we can share this because we want to get it out on our social too. What's the hashtag for this?
I don't know anything about any of that. Hashtag Triple Do Chef Challenge. There you go.
There you go. That's all we need. Triple.
Now let me explain Stephanie real quick. Her and I have been dying to do. We created the show Big Mouth in the Healthy South. Now, obviously, I'm not the Healthy South. Where I create a dish and she creates the healthier version. Unfortunately, with modern technology, we've tried 2 times and epically failed because of internet and, cameras and things going down. And I think it would be great that her and I can get on your show. We can challenge each other again. And look, I think this is great because a couple of reasons. Like I said, man, everybody's stocked up on canned goods. Money is low right now. So if you can create a couple of – look, I just created a beautiful dish. Honestly, that I'm going to sit down and eat for lunch myself, that cost me like $4. And I can feed my whole family with it.
And if you stock up on toilet paper, you can use it as a napkin. There we are. See?
Absolutely. I would love to send you some food somehow, Eric. I gotta get some dry ice and mail you down some of my food.
Well, I just need to come to New York. We need to lift the ban and I'll fly out to New York.
Absolutely. I love to come where you are for many reasons.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're welcome here. My wife said you can come here anytime because we know you'll cook, and we can enjoy the greenery of Oregon because it's green here because it rains.
Yes, with the greenery of Oregon, I may never leave your couch, buddy.
That's okay. So we've got the Triple Deuce Challenge. Hashtag that all over. We're gonna have more, so next Tuesday we have a throwdown happening on our show. I love this. I'm so excited. We're coming back from the holidays. There's no show on Monday because it's Memorial Day. Tuesday we come back. We have the throwdown. I love it. So, Chef, I want to thank you for coming on because we're short on time. I want to thank you for coming on, sharing the challenge. I have a feeling we might see you again this week. Just a little bird has told me that.
Hey, you never know.
You never know. You just might pop up again. But anyways, Bud, thank you so much. I'll chat with you soon, and we'll see you next Tuesday for the throwdown. I love it.
Absolutely. You got it, brother.
How's it going, Bud? Be safe.
Ciao.
Boom. That's what I'm talking about. We got a throwdown next Tuesday on our show. And keep in mind, next Monday is a federal holiday. Well, obviously, the Fed's been off for like 8 weeks, but it is Memorial Day. We will not have a show. We will honor our fallen. So we will not be on air. We might run a greatest hits. I haven't decided what we're going to do yet because shockingly enough, this is episode 25. So we could put together a decent best hits show if you wanted to. So tell us who you'd like to see. In fact, we will in the comments. Go ahead and tell us who you'd like to see in the greatest hits. If you missed an episode, you want to see them all put together, put it in the comments who you'd like to see. Keep in mind, next Tuesday, we have I got to make sure, Triple Deuce Chef Challenge. I love that's a mouthful. And we're going to have, I love it. And the other hashtag that we can run with, Big Mouth and the Healthy South. Well, we definitely know Chef Clemenza is not the healthy part of that. So we'll go with the Big Mouth. Hey, we're just proud of him. He didn't cuss today on the show, so I don't have to put the parental advisory sticker up for the show. But as always, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We've had a great show. It ended up being a very dedicated show to mental health, but we need to do this more often, folks. We need to have these tough conversations, and I'm going to bring the leaders of industry on here to talk about them. Because why have lobbyists talk about it when we can have people who actually wore the badge and wore the uniform and understand what's going on and lead from the front? Because if the government won't take care of it, ladies and gentlemen, first responders and veterans, we handle our own better than anybody in the back. That's what we always will tell you, Iggy 6, baby. If you hear one of us say that, very simple. It means I got your 6 or I got your back. It implies to our brothers and sisters who back the badge and fight our fires for us, and including our frontline healthcare workers. So on behalf of everyone out there, we want to thank you for tuning in. Remember, I think we're going to get away with me asking one more time, smash that subscriber button right now. Go smash it. While we're sitting here, while I'm saying bye, that's it, damn it. I'm not even until you do it. Just kidding. Smash that button. Hit the notification button too, so you never miss a show. Tell 3 friends, ask them to tell 10 friends, and ask those 10 friends to tell 3 friends. We'll just keep that going. It's like I said, it's like multi-level marketing, but for a TV show. So go do that. We want to thank you so much on behalf of myself, our executive producer, Butch Seltzer, and Madison Mitchell, who you guys will see during the summer. She's schooling right now, so she's only around for up. And then, of course, the main man in the booth, our vet, our Army dog. So see, don't think Army and Marines can't get along. The main man in the booth, controller Chris, producer Chris, in the booth, holding it down for us on the ones and the twos, and all of our guests who stopped by today. We thank you guys for everything you do. And remember, I'm Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.